Mr. Koontz, how did you come to find out about CTCS?
There was a professor at UMHB by the name of Dr. Diane Howard. She and I kept in contact after I graduated. She directed me in a couple of productions. She also oversaw their crew films program in its early years, and I was one of the first award winners to get their script made into a independent film. And I had been working in sales management, making money for my family, but the company that I was working for went under, and that kind of left me high and dry for quite a few months, and we were pretty much at the end of our rope financially. We already had a child. We had Marshall. He was 1, I think, when that happened. And so she sent me a Facebook message that said, hey, local Christian school here in the area, CTCS, is looking to start up a theater program, and they're looking for a part-time theater teacher. I know that wasn't at all what you graduated with as far as what you ended up doing and everything like that, but you have enough hours to make it worth your while. Would you like to go and put in your name? And I said, sure, why not? I don't have a job right now, and that sounds like kind of a dream gig. And so I turned in an application. Sure enough, I got a call from Dr. Littlefield a couple days later. Went in for an interview with him and Mrs. Luckett, and a couple of days later, I got the call, and they let me know that I've been hired.
So how long have you been teaching at CTCS?
This is the start of my 8th year. It's my 7th year full time. My first year, like I said, I was part time, but I did make it clear because of my family's obligations and whatnot that if I was going to continue to work at CTCS, it was going to have to be on a full time status. And essentially, what they told me was, we'll see how theater goes. If it goes well, we'll find a way to make you full time. If not, we'll just chalk it up to a grand idea and bid you adieu. And I guess they liked the way theater went, because the next year I was full time.
What are some upcoming plays that people might be interested in?
Well, here we have 4 productions this year. We have 2 of them are open audition, which means anybody can come and audition, including people who are not in theater class. 2 of them are just reserved for theater class individuals. The first one is a just for theater class performance. It's the 8th night of theater. We do a night of theater every year. It's a collection of monologues and dialogues and small scenes and just kind of short little fun snippets that we do. That's going to be October 14th. We're going to be doing, and this is an open audition, so anybody can audition for this if they want. We're doing auditions for A Christmas Carol, actually next week, next Wednesday. And then A Christmas Carol goes up December 1st and 2nd. And then right after that, in December, before we leave for Christmas break, we have auditions for Beauty and the Beast, which is also open to everybody. That's our big number this year. We always do one big show, big musical, and that's it. We're going to have open auditions for that, and that will be performed April 21st and 22nd. And then lastly, this is something that's just for kids in the class and whatnot. We have a dinner theater that we're doing as a fundraiser on May 4th. So.
I see. What play that you've directed at school, which one has been your favorite?
Show that was my favorite to direct?
Yes, at school.
That would be at the school. That would be Once Upon a Mattress.
Ooh. So that's a good one.
There's a couple that got up there close. I really enjoyed doing Bye Bye Birdie. It was a lot of fun, big cast, talented cast. I enjoyed doing Bearskin, but that was mainly just because I had written it and I love that story, and it was, as a creator, it was enjoyable to see that come to life the way that it did. Into the Woods was so music intensive that sometimes I had to take a step back and let our music folks step in and help a little bit more. But Once Upon a Mattress was just worked out really, really well. Even the stuff that didn't work still managed to come together in a good way. So that would definitely be my for this school directing. It would have to be Once Upon a Mattress.
What are your thoughts of the newer theater kids?
There's some this year, new kids in middle school. I'm really impressed with their energy. I'm impressed with their natural talent. Several of them have been already showing me what they're capable of. There's a 7th and 6th grader in one of my classes that are a dialogue pair. They've already memorized their script. They got it a week ago. There's 2 weeks ago. There's another group that got theirs a couple weeks ago, and they've already memorized their script as well. So, you compare that to high school kids, where usually it's, I'll have it memorized the day before the show goes up. And I'm really impressed with their go-get-em attitude and how much they want to show how hard they're willing to work to get a part. There's also some new freshmen and sophomores who haven't been in this class before, or who maybe were in this class once upon a time and then left, and now have come back. And they're doing a really good job too. They're showing up. They're showing interest in a way that I didn't expect. You always have a few kids who are just in a class to get the credit. They don't really have any interest in the actual subject. And unlike choir, where you can stand in the back and pretend to mouth words, or art, where it's so subjective that as long as you just do your best, you've done art, or band, where again, not always, but there are times when if you really want to hide, you can, once the big number comes up. But in theater, there is no way that you can be in theater without in some way having those moments where you are featured on stage. Even if you're with other people, you're out there and everybody can choose to stare at you if they want. And so it's a unique thing to balance, but I've seen a lot of these new kids come in and really embrace the challenge and really jump into it and show interest, and that's a pretty awesome thing.
Do you plan on expanding the theater department?
Always. Any chance we get to expand it, I want to. We have way more talent than we should for our size. It all never ceases to amaze me. A school with our small population should not be able to put on a junior musical, much less a real musical. And yet we have that talent. What we lack sometimes are the facilities. And that's a unique challenge, but it's not one that we're not willing to overcome. But every year, it becomes more and more apparent that were we to have some sort of permanent theater or permanent staging location, the difference it would make in terms of both our budget and in terms of our ability to put up impressive set pieces and things like that would just, you cannot even believe how different things would be. And so I am always interested in expanding the theater program. It's just a matter of when the opportunity comes, being ready to show that we're worth seizing it.
How did you lose your hearing?
A couple of different things. I was kicked in the head when I was a teenager, which was the ear that I still hear mostly out of. I was kicked on the left side. I wish somebody had taken a video or footage of it, because it was probably hilarious. The guy who kicked me was, I'd say probably about Grace Sinclair's size. not a large fellow. I did boxing and kickboxing as a way to stay in shape, and just because it was an interest of mine. And he literally just like some sort of gymnast move or something, literally just on one foot, like a snap kick, and just perfectly placed, popped and cupped in here, ruptured something. and that was just some damage. And it's very slow moving damage, but it's been just gradually over the last 20 years, 25 years. It's just been gradually deteriorating a little bit. I'm about 65% hearing in this ear. I was 70 a few years ago, or about 5 years ago, I was 70%. This ear is totally deaf, and that was from a combination of a crash that I was in when I was in my mid-20s that did some damage, because apparently my ears like to be the first thing to fold under pressure. And then back when COVID hit and everybody else was either getting sick with COVID or running away, I had no idea what was going on, because during that spring break, like literally the Saturday after spring break started, I got sick with a sinus infection that became an ear infection, and that ear infection traveled to my jaw and then traveled to my spine at my brain. And I didn't, I knew my ear still hurt, and they'd given me medication for it, but it wouldn't get better. And we were supposed to have a staff meeting on Wednesday to discuss, I think probably at the time it was probably to discuss the stuff involving COVID and whether or not we were coming back and all that stuff. Because when we left for spring break, there was every intention to come back, right? So I was supposed to be there for that meeting, or to be on, I can't remember if it was online or what. But that earlier that Wednesday, I was driving and literally half of my face just went numb. And I'm like, okay, it's gone from still hurting after all this time to being numb. And I got real worried, and I thought I was having a stroke, so I went with my kids to the doctor, because what else was I going to do with them? And the doctors got real worried because of the nerves essentially stopping. And so they sent me to the hospital, and I got plugged in there in the ICU in the hospital. And while I was in there, never saw my wife, never saw family, never saw anybody, and I could not figure out why. I didn't hear from anybody. Doctors wouldn't talk to me, and of course it turns out that the whole corona thing had just started melting down at that point. And so they were putting up all the, you can't come in, you can't visit people, all those quarantine things.
Yeah.
That as of just a couple of days earlier had not been discussed. And so I was in the hospital when that happened. But anyway, long story short, it caused my eardrum to rupture twice.
Ooh.
And there was significant scarring in there. I don't understand all the details. I'm not a medical guy. But what I can tell you is that I still had some hearing in that ear when I went in. And after a couple of surgeries, and they're minor surgeries, but a couple of surgeries and an attempt to put in some tubing and some other stuff, I came out of the hospital with no hearing in that ear. For a while, there was other problems too. I had to wear an eye patch for quite a while because my eye was hypersensitive to light, and I couldn't, when I would blink, it would blink slower, which sounds not like a big deal. It throws you off. If you constantly have a lazy blink, it feels like the water rolling. And it was, but no, this one. I mean, if you come over here and you scream in my ear, I can hear just a touch.
How do you think losing your hearing affected you spiritually and as a teacher?
Spiritually, I don't think it did. Now, I'm sure there will be a reckoning at some point. There's always the possibility that it's going to affect my ability to do what I love, which sucks, especially since I know that they've already told me there's not really anything they can do for this one, except for like those surgical ones where they go in and plug into your brain and all that stuff, and we can't afford that. So, I mean, you never know. But honestly, it hasn't. Like, it's been such a gradual thing that I've learned to adapt. And it's really, kind of fun to hear weird different things and have to play that game where I'm trying to figure out what somebody said. Usually it's pretty easy. As long as somebody's being articulate or loud, or especially both, I can put it all together. And it's almost, it's like if you had to do a little puzzle every day to open the door to get into the house, you wouldn't think anything of doing a little puzzle. It just becomes second nature to you. It's just become second nature to kind of put together what people's lips are doing with what they're, right? Well, if you're looking at the lips and you can read the lips pretty well, there's not barely even any time that passes. You just pick up, and then of course if somebody speaks articulately, you don't even have to worry about it. As a teacher, I have to kind of give a warning, because nowadays people are super sensitive about stuff, and the last thing I want is for some middle schooler to think I'm creeping them out by staring at their lips. So I have to tell them at the beginning of every year, I have really bad hearing, I look at people's lips. It can occasionally cause some difficulty. If somebody's real clever about, hiding what they're saying or doing to, bother or bully another kid, and they keep it quiet and the other kid doesn't say anything, I can miss it because I don't hear it. And if I don't hear it, especially if I'm, working with somebody who's performing over there, and then I'm giving them some blocking or some notes, or I'm just watching intently to make sure that they're doing a good job, I might miss what's going on behind me because I don't hear it. I don't hear the whispers of, anger or hurt or whatever. And so I don't see it. Now, I try to make up for that by constantly asking, how my kids are doing, are you okay, how's your day going, all that sort of thing, and hopefully try to cover those bases. But sometimes kids just don't tell you what's happening. And so when that's the case, occasionally I miss stuff, and I don't like that much, and it's difficult, but there's positives that, there's a lot of times when people will be talking about something they're not supposed to, or saying something they're not supposed to, and they're being quiet enough that they think they're getting away with it, and I'm just sitting there reading their lips, and I know what they're saying. And, I can't always act on it, because how do you do that without coming off like, well, you're assuming what I said. No, I'm not. I'm really good at reading lips. Well, but you don't know. You just, it's not a game I want to play. But
Yeah.
It comes with its own perks, It's just, honestly, it's something I've adapted to, and I don't think about it much spiritually. It really hasn't. Not at all, honestly. Like I said, maybe someday in the future, if things continue to get worse or if things don't get better, and I start to see opportunities pass me by because I can't hear the music well enough when I audition, or, I'm struggling in a practice and it leaves a bad impression with the director, and they don't want to, take me back the next year because I struggled to hear the music or to hear the instructions or whatnot. If that ever starts to happen, then it'll probably be a bit of a spiritual struggle, because being a theatrical person is so much part of who I am. But it could be a lot worse. I could have gone blind, or I could have gone deaf. I'm not deaf. I could have gone mute or whatever else. Honestly, out of all the major losses of things, except the sense of, well, no, even that, I think hearing is the one I'd want to lose. I would not want to be in darkness. I would not want to be unable to speak, and I would not want to be unable to feel things. So, hearing would be the one to go. So, I'm glad for it.
Finally, what line from any performance that you've seen has stuck with you through all of this?
Like a line from like a show?
Anything.
Gosh. So we're doing Bye Bye Birdie. Kyle Parsons is a junior, and Ben Sparks is playing Hugo Peabody. And there's a scene where essentially Birdie has to run off stage fast, and he didn't have time to really get where he needed to go before the lights came up on the next scene. And so he just like a baseball player sliding into second, just kicks down on one knee and on one thigh and slides behind this setup table booth thing where Ben is perched waiting, watching the scene and kind of doing that thing that some actors do where they'll lurk and they'll watch, but they'll stay out of the way because it's not their time to go on yet. And so Ben's there doing that, and Kyle just dead slides in right next to him, and I'm crouching next to Ben, and we're talking, and all of a sudden it's like, because we don't see it coming, we're sitting here talking, and Kyle just literally slides right in front of us, one hand on the ground, other hand up to his, other hand to his hip, the other hand to his head, slides over and he goes, "Do you like jazz?" With just the biggest, cheesiest, borderline psychotic whisper you could ever conceive. And it was just, and he was wearing his gold sparkly outfit. And it was just so ridiculously hard not to laugh. So for years after that, all you'd hear random times, "Do you like jazz?" And we'd find ways to make it bigger and more intense every time. I won't say Double Barrel because it needs to die. It's so bad. But Double Barrel has been quite a long-lasting thing. What else? In my non-CTCS theater life, there was an incident where one of my friends was supposed to sing. It was his only solo in the whole show, and it's Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, so everything's a song. There's no spoken lines. And so it's essentially his only time to speak because he's singing these lines, and he's the baker. And he, for weeks, had been practicing by singing the first two lines of his bit, and then he would sing, "I dreamed I saw a golden sheaf, law," and he would just sing the law for the rest of it because he got so bored doing the same song over and over and over again. And I even warned him, "You're gonna blank on stage and you're gonna sing law without meaning to." He's like, "No, it's ridiculous." And it was ridiculous, but he did it. He went out for press night the night before opening night, and went out and blanked and sang the law and didn't mean to. He just went out and sang, "I dreamed I saw a golden sheaf, law," and had that, like half a second later, his eyes just went wide because he realized what he'd done. What does he do now? He couldn't remember the rest, so he just held out the law until the end, like he had in practice. And then Top. You might not, we haven't done Top in a few years, but back when we did Oklahoma, there was a song called "Surrey with the Fringe on Top," and it keeps repeating. It's a song that comes in and comes out, and comes in and comes out, and comes in and comes out for like the first 20 stinking minutes of this stupid show, right?
Oh, my.
And Kyle didn't have it memorized yet. He's curly. And I wanted him to get some time one-on-one with, I forget who the choir director, Beltran, I forget her first name, but she had said she was going to work with him to help him get that ready. And so I didn't want to bother to have him try to sing through it all when he didn't have it yet. So I just went, all right, top, because that's the last note. Every single chorus, every single verse with the Surrey with the fringe on the top. So I'd just go top, and that would be it. And then Kyle got into the habit of doing it, going top. And so then anytime we cut through a song and didn't sing it, it was top. And so then the next year when we did Bye Bye Birdie and we'd skip a song, top. And I think we stopped doing top about the time that Hope and Jordan and Corey and Lauren graduated. But I still occasionally say it, and you guys look at me like I've grown a third eye. So it's not as well known as Double Barrel, but top was a big thing that we used to do all the time.
Well, thank you for letting me interview you, Mr. Koontz.
Sure. What is this for again?
That's for a yearbook.
Ah.
Yeah.
Wow. Why all this for you?